Hey everyone, Gary with Tennessee Stands. You're gonna want to listen to this video. I know probably all of you don't watch all of my videos, but you're gonna want to listen to this one. We had what we celebrated um, was a big win yesterday regarding SB 187, which passed with 8 yeses and 1 no out of the Senate Health Committee to secure religious exemptions to vaccines, which was the intent of the bill. Um, and before I address this, I just want to say that if you follow Tennessee Stands, what you know that you're gonna get from me personally and from Tennessee Stands is the truth. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna glaze over it. I'm not gonna glance the other way. I'm not afraid to hurt feelings and make people mad. That's not what we're about. We're a citizens group, and our mission is that you know the truth, that you know what's going on in your government, that you know what's going on with these bills. So even when it doesn't make us necessarily look good, it would be great to just celebrate the win, clap our hands, and just me turn around and walk away and let you think that we did something amazing. But I'm here to tell you that what happened yesterday, unfortunately, is not awesome. And I'm going to tell you why. I just received the amendment this morning that actually passed yesterday in committee. If you remember, if you were watching committee with us yesterday, it started out with a shocker. Senator Farrell Hale presented an amendment to the bill that no one knew anything about. I repeat, no member of the committee sitting at the committee had a copy of this amendment, including Senator Janice Bowling, the sponsor of the bill. No one had an idea that this amendment had been filed. That started an incredible amount of confusion. We proceeded to talk about a bunch of complete nonsense that had nothing to do with the bill. And by the time, which typically happens, that everyone was sufficiently confused, we took a break, and then they took Senator Bowling along with attorneys from University of Texas, the Tennessee Department of Health, the Tennessee Medical Association. I believe Vanderbilt may have been present. I don't know that to be a fact, but there are 4 or 5 snakes back there in what they call the cloakroom, where apparently citizens like myself, even though this particular citizen happened to write the bill, apparently is not allowed along into the snake pit, or what they also call the cloakroom, to see how the sausage is really made and all of the secret things they put into the bill that they're going to pretend that did something whenever they come back out and pass it. Did you get all that? All right. So the amendment to the amendment to the amendment that actually passed yesterday, and we were all scratching our heads thinking, God, this is great. 8 yeses. But how did that happen? Here's how it happened: because the bill does almost nothing. Because SB 187 does almost nothing. It does not protect religious exemptions. Let's take a look at the amendment. Let me change over here. I'm going to walk this through step by step. Section 1, they left alone. They left untouched. Section 1 was we amended it a little bit to strengthen it, but this was the original HB 13 that essentially says that the state cannot mandate a vaccine for COVID, but we made it a little bit stronger in saying SARS-CoV-2 and any variant of SARS-CoV-2. So they accepted that, which was great. So, great. We passed a section that says the state can't mandate COVID. But like you've heard me say before, on that note, for right now at least, it's sort of a moot point because the state can't mandate a vaccine for COVID anyway, because it's currently only authorized under emergency use authorization. It's not FDA approved, so the state can't mandate it. And we're not certain if we'll have FDA approval this year in 2022. Some things that I've read say FDA approval may not come until 2023. which by then we'll be on to a new pandemic and a completely new vaccine. So quite frankly, whatever, but hey, they accepted it, they passed it. Again, probably because it doesn't do very much, but nonetheless. But then Section 2 begins the religious exemption part. Well, here's what they did. This is 49.6/5001. This is the code in schools that secures a religious exemption to schools. What we attempted to do, or what we've been trying to do, was strike the epidemic language to where you always had a religious exemption. Well, here's what they did. They struck this epidemic language, but then they put it back in and added this except as provided in subdivision B3. Well, look what subdivision 3 is in section 3. This section does not apply to an immunization for what? SARS-CoV-2. Just so that this isn't confusing, let me clear up exactly what this means. So what they passed was not to secure a religious exemption in all cases. You are only now guaranteed a religious exemption in schools only if the epidemic is COVID. If the epidemic or the threat of an epidemic is for any other disease, your religious exemption is still null and void. You only have your religious exemption secured in the schools if the epidemic is COVID. Otherwise, nada. So we passed almost nothing. Next, section 4, section 68.2-603. This was a section of our code which allows a board of health or a local health department to promulgate a rule for medical treatment. And it has a religious exemption, but it has the epidemic language. So again, we wanted to strike the epidemic language so that you have a religious exemption no matter what, no matter if there's an epidemic or not. Well, what did the attorneys from these wonderful organizations write in there? Well, they put the epidemic language again back, added a new section, section 5, subsection G, which again identifies COVID. So again, functionally, here's what that means. If a board of health or a health department makes a regulation that requires medical treatment, you have a religious exemption secured in an epidemic only if the epidemic is COVID. If the epidemic or the threatened epidemic is for any other disease known to humankind other than COVID, guess what? Your religious exemption to that regulation by the local health department is null and void. Yes, that's what we voted on yesterday in the Senate Health Committee. Let's keep going. All right. Let's go on to, interestingly, this amendment's miswritten because that was section 5 and this should be section 6, but it's section 7. So anyway, oh no, here's section 6. Sorry. All right, let's look at this. This is the only thing we actually got done yesterday that has any sort of function in law. We struck section 68.5.106 subsection A. This is the law we've been talking about that was back from 1905. The 1905 law, which says that a board of health or a health department or a physician working for the health department can mandate that you have a vaccine, and if you refuse, it's a Class C misdemeanor, 30 days in jail or a $50 fine. That stayed in the bill, so that got cut. That section has been deleted, so that's good. That's a good thing. But if this bill passes, if SB 187 passes on the floor and then goes to the House and passes, just so you know, Section 6 that strikes that 1905 law, which is a great thing, is the only part of this bill that will have a function in law today. It's the only thing in this bill that will have a function in law today. Everything else would be pending an FDA approval for the COVID vaccine. Let's keep going. Now, here's the really sad part. Here's the meat and potatoes. Section 7, subsection A. This is the meat and potatoes of HB 10. This is the part that would have secured religious exemptions in perpetuity. And I'll read it to you. What it says is this: a state agency or department shall not promulgate a rule, and any political subdivision of the state shall not promulgate, adopt, or enforce an ordinance or resolution that requires medical treatment for those who object to the medical treatment on religious grounds or rights of conscience, which means the reason that was put in there is to secure religious exemptions in this state by a constitutionally secured right of conscience, so that no state agency whatsoever could ever make a requirement for a vaccine or any kind of medical treatment without allowing for a religious exemption. That's what our bill said. And we had gone on to define medical treatment as, anything medical and immunizations and all that sort of stuff. We had covered all of that. Well, look what these guys did. They kept the statement that we wrote, but look at subsection B number 1. That's highlighted here for you. They redefined medical treatment to only mean an immunization, vaccination, or injection for SARS-CoV-2, for COVID. So again, let me give you the dummy version. What this means, what we just passed now, instead of securing a religious exemption into the future for any other rules, for any diseases or anything that could be mandated by a state agency, that is now only applicable to COVID. So again, if any time in the future, a state agency or a political subdivision or a county health department or anybody makes a rule requiring a vaccine or requiring any kind of medical treatment for anything other than COVID, any other disease known to humankind, they do not have to give you a religious exemption, according to SB 187. Look, I'm going to give Senator Janice Bowling some cover here. This woman walked into a bomb and a trap, a bill that had already died in the House, and a bill that these men and women on this committee had no intention of passing. And the lobbyists that work for the University of the University of Tennessee, and the Tennessee Medical Association, and the Tennessee Hospital Association, and Vanderbilt, and all the likes of them, were not going to allow this bill to secure your religious exemptions. They weren't going to have it. And they first of all, they threw a bunch of confusion into the mix. They put an amendment in front of Senator Bowling that she had never seen. Then they pull her into a cloakroom, with a bunch of attorneys. They wrote this up in about 20, 30 minutes, changed the whole thing. And by the time she got out of there, she was probably just excited to get 8 votes and thinking these people were actually going to pass something. And we all, and Senator Massey gave a speech about religious exemptions. Yeah, we secure religious exemptions. And Senator Hensley gave a speech about religious exemptions. Yeah, we believe in religious exemptions. That's what they said. Go back and watch the video. Tennessee, man, Tennessee. I just want you to know, Senator Becky Massey is for you. We believe in religious exemptions. But you didn't protect them. That's the truth, y'all. We got hoodwinked, bamboozled, swindled yesterday. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. This sucks. But I will always tell you the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth, because you deserve it. And if you don't know what's going on in this General Assembly, then we can't fight it. And you and me, we're all in this together. So here's the lesson to learn from what happened in this committee. These people are not for you. And 2022 is coming up, and some of these men and women on this committee are up for re-election. You have got to stop. You've got to stop electing these same people to office who are killing these bills, who cannot secure a religious exemption to a vaccine or a medical treatment in the state of Tennessee. That is god-awful. Get them out. Do not vote for these people again. And if you live in one of these districts, by God, somebody find you some money. Run for office. It's a cesspool down there. And we are fighting every day, and I'm learning You never get what you want. But my God, this goes way beyond simply not getting what we wanted. So they're going to pat themselves on their back. They're going to continue to champion. Look what we did. Look what we did. And they may even fully pass. This may get all the way to the governor's desk, and he's going to sign it. And we protected you from COVID. I'm telling you, they killed this bill. And just like I told you before with HB 13, it does almost nothing. It protects you from a vaccine for COVID. To close this video out, just so that no one's confused, nothing in this bill does anything regarding your employer. Your private employer can still mandate that you have a vaccine or you lose your job. That died with HB 10, thanks to Representative Robin Smith and Representative Pat Marsh in the House subcommittee, who believe wholeheartedly that your employer has the right to make you do whatever it is they want you to do regarding the rest of your life if you would like to have a job. So we didn't even try to tackle that in this bill because we knew it wasn't going to make it through the House. But guys, I'm disappointed. Thank you to all those who came to the rally yesterday. We fought hard. We got something. We struck out a law from 1905 that needed to be out of our code, and maybe that's what we walk away with. And if at some point in the future this vaccine is ever FDA approved, well, the state can't mandate it. I guess that's a good thing too. Thank you all for following. Spread this around. God bless.